Traders, how you doing? Marcello here, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today we're answering all your questions on this series of Ask Marcello. Today we're talking about news, watching news while you day trade. We're here in Amsterdam doing a military training, full 5 days with traders all over Europe. It's super special to be able to have people from all over the world. Namibia, which is a country right next to South Africa, on the bottom of Africa, all over Europe, which is great. The question today is,
when you become a day trader, do you watch the news a lot, or do you have a PC that tells you what's up in the news?
super good question, Pistol. So I'm gonna kind of back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about the types of trading there are, because I think it's gonna reflect in the answer that I'm gonna give you, all right? If you guys have any other questions, don't forget to put hashtag Ask Marcello. I'll be happy to go ahead and answer all the questions for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe. The idea with news, Pistol, is that we have two different kinds of analysis when it comes to day trading, all right? We have something that's called fundamental analysis and also something that's called technical analysis, so fundamental and technical. So the idea is that when we're trading, you can either do fundamental analysis or technical. They both work. Now, any movement that occurs in the stock market occurs because of a fundamental reason. Now, there could be a news report, a report for an actual, let's say, an unemployment from the government, these kind of reports, economic reports that come out. Or it can also be, for example, a decision that a president makes. What's happening right now in 2018, sorry if you guys can hear a lot of the sound, I'll try to fix that, is we have the trade wars between Trump and China and other countries. Before, in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, we had a situation with oil. So oil was really affecting a lot of the markets, because what would happen is we have a situation where Iran was threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, which the majority of the oil in the world goes through. So the reason why things move in the market is because of a fundamental reason. There are a lot of traders, Jim Rogers uses, I think, a lot of fundamental analysis, and fundamental is basically where you look at the difference, how a news affects other economies, and how the economy affects certain businesses, and how businesses affect other businesses. So just to give you guys an example, supposedly right now in 2018, what's happening with Turkey is that United States is supposedly, right, I read this online, it must be true, WikiLeaks more than anything, United States is rising, making the price of oil rise to affect the economy in Turkey, and then Turkey now is having a real bad problem with their currency. So because they're having a really bad problem with their currency, they're affecting a lot of other markets around the world, which supposedly European banks have over $150 billion worth of loans in Turkey. So if the currency in Turkey devaluates, then the value of that debt gets a lot stronger, because they need to pay it back in euros, not in the lira, which is the Turkish currency. And then obviously the European banking system is going to have quite a big problem. And then obviously if the European banks have a big problem, then other banks around the world are going to have a big problems as well. That's fundamental analysis. Technical analysis would be where we see the value of the Turkish lira going down, so we're going to short the Turkish lira because we see it on a technical reason for a chart. That's technical analysis. You just read it on a chart, right? So lines, strength of a certain amount of technical analysis, that's only technical. So when you ask me specifically about news, right, the majority of us actually trade with technical analysis. So we don't do any fundamental analysis. And the reason why is it's because it's a lot more difficult to be able to learn how to connect in between the dots between the two economies or between two businesses, right? I share a lot of this information in the weekly reviews that I do because I've had so much experience. I can actually explain to you how things work and how it affects other markets or other economies. But for you guys to be able to learn that, it's a lot more difficult. It takes a lot more time because you don't, in the education system that we have, and a lot of education systems around the world, you don't really learn things like critical thinking, right? I took a class, I think, in critical thinking when I was in high school. That's what, 15 years ago? More than 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Wow. But a lot of people aren't able to think that way anymore. You connect the dots. So in order for you to develop that, it's a lot harder because you have to develop critical thinking as well. Whereas with technical analysis, what you can do as well, you can avoid the news reports, because the news reports is a situation where it might affect the market in a certain direction, but you don't necessarily have to know what the report is or what it means just to see the movement in the actual physical chart, right? So it's important to realize, now kind of following up on your question, I know I kind of charged a lot of information up before I answered the question directly, but the idea behind this is, if a news report comes out, you have to know whether that news report is important or not, and if that news report is important, then you stop trading during that news report. A few minutes before, or maybe a few seconds before, depending on what strategy you use. After the news report comes out, then you have to read the price, the technical chart, to be able to decipher whether it's actually affecting the market or not. So that's the only way that we handle news. So a piece of news might actually come out, and if it's really important, then we might not trade during it. And obviously this is going to change over time. Like now, the story that I told you about the Iran situation in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, affected a lot the markets. Because they affected a lot the markets, you always stopped trading during that oil report, the inventories report specifically, if I'm not mistaken. Now that report really doesn't matter anymore, right? So you can literally trade through it, and you have a situation where it doesn't really matter. So you're gonna have to understand just what news reports affect and why. It's something that we obviously help. You know, I think DTA exists now for 10 years. On the English side, we have traders now in English, Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese, fala português, cara. Tagalog, which is the Philippines. We got traders all over the world. And the idea is that we teach you the system, how we use it, and obviously how to understand, or how to start understanding the situation where what a news affects what. You know, gotta say, legally, we don't trade people's money. We're not trading advisors. We don't provide any kind of personalized trading advice, because obviously that's illegal. But obviously that, we try to show you guys how to be able to understand that, so you guys can go in and make the right decisions in your own account, obviously under your own responsibility. So that's what I have to say about the news, pistol. If you have any other questions, let me know. Hashtag Ask Marcello. And don't forget to subscribe to be able to see if I answered your question. We'll see you next time.